Hi, and welcome to TerraPilot training powered by Propeller. This is the GeoForge solution for smart residential development project management. And in previous video, we talked about the point, which is one of our three basic measurements that all of our analysis really in this platform is based on. And next, we're going to talk about the line. So the line is the second in our measurement area, our second type of basic measurement. And the line has its own set of features that we can do as well. Line's got a few more than a point, but we can do something from a basic distance. So we can draw a line between two or more points and then measure the total surface distance, point to point difference, and the horizontal difference. We can do a berm check. This is really probably more along the lines of mining, but you may have this for safety berms, bunds, windrows, or other barriers. You can draw that line across the barrier and calculate the height and the width to make sure it's where you need it to be. We can do a cross section. So for example, if we want to see what the exact cross section is of a particular slope, like the one in front of us here, or of a stockpile, we can draw a line across that and see the cross section. We can see the elevation difference between two areas. So what the elevation difference looks like between the point I placed at the top of this and at the bottom. And then finally, we can trace out a line along a track, for example, and see what that grade slope is. And we can show that grade or slope as a degree, a percentage, or a ratio. So let's start with just a basic line, right? Let's just start from here and drop a line down to the bottom of this retention pond. And we'll click on that second point second time to finish. And what we're seeing is that right there is a distance of 76.7 feet. So if you had a point up here on the top and you put a point down here and you draped a line across the surface, you'd have 76.7 feet. Now, let's change that to a cross section. And now what we're going to see is the same distance, right? But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to see the cross section of that and what that slope would look like if we were to slice that right out of the earth. And the cool thing about cross section is we can add other surveys, right? So let's see, what was this back in March 22nd of this year? We can add that, and when we come back out of it, now we're going to draw the blue line. I think we can see this is what it was in March, a little bit more smooth. And so we can compare two different data sets. We can even add in a design. So if we had the design for the surface grade plan, which we do, so let's go ahead and bring that in. Here's the grading plan. We'll add that. And that grading plan is right here. We can see that this is a great match. The grading plan says this is what the slope should be, as defined by the orange line. In March, it was the blue line, and here in July, it's the yellow line. So we can compare those three. We can take one off, but now we're comparing the grading plan to that slope, and that's with the cross section. Okay. Let's go back over and do an elevation difference. An elevation difference gives us a different way of looking at things. And what it's saying is that this elevation of this point is at 39.261 feet. The elevation at this point is at 24.939. And if we were to run a level, we would have an elevation change of 14.32 feet. Sort of reminds me of an old physics lab back in high school, geeking out for a moment, but that's how you would measure your elevation changes. It's how they've done it since the days of George Washington surveying out Washington, D.C. But this is your elevation change. And then finally, we can do a grade and slope. So we can see that this is a 1 to 5.4 gradient ratio. We can show it in degrees. It is a 10.6 degree slope on average. Or we can finally show it as a percent, and it's an 18.7% grade. So that is the max and the average for that segment. There's only one segment, so if we had a moving road or a hill or a path, we would have multiple segments and have a little bit different analysis on that. And once again, we can turn on the cross section and see both the slope and the cross section at the same time. And once again, add in our grading plan or our survey as we choose and compare those things. So that is the line, much like everything else in TerraPilot, powered by Propeller. You can change them as you go and as your needs change, or if you decide that it isn't exactly what you're looking for, you don't have to delete it and recreate a new one. You can just come along and change the parameters of that to something else of closer to what you're looking for. So, as always, if you have any questions on using the platform, any questions on how to get specific information out of the platform, or would like our help to put down a measurement or an area, you can reach out to help at goterrapilot.com. We'll be happy to respond as soon as possible. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Have a great day.